Well, Happy New Year, Maverick traders. Good to see you. Joe here with a currency recap. This is December 2nd, the first trading day of 2025. Let's hope this is a good year for all of us. I've got my 2 cents. You know how this works. So make sure you take responsibility for what we chat about. Let's get into the markets. Take a look at what's happened today. Let's take a look at some stuff technically. And I've got some trades that we can share, as always, with the community.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
As we move into the market analysis, folks, you can see that we did have quite the move in the currency markets. Not so much in the equities, but the currencies did have quite the move. Now, Rob talked briefly about this on the weekend class, and hey, when that new year kicks off, we've seen it time and time again. The posturing begins, and that's for now what we're going to call it is posturing. So it's going to be cool to see what emerges over the next couple of days. 2025 kicks off with continued selling in the U.S. equities. Nothing new, down about 0.22% in the S&P. We were selling off anyways towards the end of the year, not breaking any levels or falling apart, but it just kind of meandered over from 2024, and that's how I'm chalked that up to so far. The jobless claims dropped again, 8th-month low. The strength in the U.S. is still there. It's apparent. We were worried about a Fed that was going to slow down on the rate cuts. Here's just another economic event that kind of supports that maybe they should slow things down. I imagine that's kind of why the markets are hesitating here. But, that's my 2 cents. We'll see where we go. So how did we finish overall? We'll take a look. Flat. I think that 0.27% up probably had a little bit to do with the reaction of the employment number. But take a look at the Aussie and the Kiwi. So risk on currencies up. Seeing a little bit of posturing going on. Not sure where people want to go, but I'll tell you what. They sure as heck wanted out of that mid area, didn't they? The franc, the euro, the pound. There could be many reasons for these moves, but once again, I'm not going to chalk it up to, hey, it's the first trading day of 2025, so we'll see where this goes. Everything's up, everything's down, everything's moved except for basically the yen today. So let's just move over to the rest of the markets here. So the S&P pretty much flat. Told you down 0.22, so nothing out of the ordinary. Crypto, how to break balance. Gold and oil, all sorts of news behind those. Gold, I could see a big move to the upside, especially when you see a couple of those currencies drop as much as they did today. It could just be, hey, let me get out of some of these currencies and get into something a little bit safer. Energy, 1.69%. Oil's seen a pretty good move to the upside. Expectations of expansion in China over into 2025. And if we see a continued strength in the U.S. economy, it's all sorts of different things that could be causing those, but that's where we're at. Here is Bitcoin, and, well, I should say the cryptos. The cryptos were due for a bounce, and that's what they got. Litecoin down slightly, pretty much flat, but it still has pretty much the same chart as the other three. So let's get into it here. I've got the 20 and the 50. Price action definitely below there. It's been below there for a little while after that really good bounce that we had off support. And it's right back down to that support level. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And it's too early to do anything with it. Yeah, it's only one trading day in 2025. But what I did like is it adhered to this support level. I'm a little bit above it there, but you could see it touched it with a shadow a few days ago, and then it touched it with a body and a shadow again before the year end, and then here we are with the body right at it. So this has a chance to consolidate there, maybe turn. The volume's pretty low over those last few days. I imagine the volume might pick up over a little bit, but we are still in that, I'm going to call it consolidating area. It's so difficult for me to give this -2 because to me it's just like a high tight range, but I do have to follow what our signals are, and so there we are. But if it can stay above that, it's just kind of a wide range base. If you take a look at it on a weekly chart, it's just a little bit of a pullback. But let's just be cautious for now and see where we go. Too early to make a decision, right? One trading day. Not a lot to go on economic-wise. Manufacturing PMI in China was Monday, and then we had the unemployment claims. This is kind of the number I was telling you about here, so a little bit lighter than expected. This brings it down to that 8th month low. showing that we are expanding. The U.S. is growing. It does not slow down. It's not looking like it wants to slow down anytime soon, which I think has got that dollar stronger, at least in the shorter term. What do we got tomorrow? ISM manufacturing PMI. Definitely going to keep an eye on that. We'll see if it has any sort of an impact as we get to the weekend, right? So we did see a lot of movement today, so let's go out and definitely take a look and do some currency analysis. First off, folks, I'm going just straight into our velocity score, and I'm going to start with the yen. The yen I kept as a 0. You could argue a +1 just because I'm seeing a little bit of a little flip on the SAR there, but we got a flat RSI here, flat moving average, and then, flip-flop SAR. I kept it as a 0. It's not really gaining any traction. This did slip a little bit last week, but it's kind of been out of the news, and it's just kind of stabilized there. So not a lot of movement today in the yen, but it could be something to pair with if you guys are looking for something to pair with, especially against the pound or the euro, or even the Aussie and the Kiwi, because those had the most moves. Let's take a look at the U.S. dollar, up again a little bit. So it does have this ascending triangle feel to it on the velocity score. This is kind of what I'm looking at right there, and it has poked its head up. Not a lot of like raw confirmation for me, meaning that it's breaking out. I can't give it a +3, but I did give it a +2. I do like it's kind of parking itself here. We'll see what happens when the markets open up here in a little bit, but it could continue higher. I do like it. I like where this RSI is. It's been playing above that 50 for quite some time, so it is definitely an outperformer. Now, the franc is one that had a pretty good slip, and it slid pretty good there, so it rolled over. It was easy. I dropped this thing to a -3. It flipped the SAR. It was already sliding down on the moving average, and it dipped lower, but I like that drop here on the RSI. It looks like it's flatlining in the shorter term, and it is a velocity score. So whenever I've got a +3 or a -3 velocity score, I immediately gravitate out or pull out to the daily chart because I want to see where it falls in the overall motion of the ocean. You can see, it's slightly lower. You got this RSI that seems to be slightly sliding lower below the 50. We got a flat moving average, but it looks like it's trying to flip, and a SAR that flipped. So even though I got a -3 on the velocity, this is only a -1, maybe a -1 for me on the daily. That doesn't mean it can't continue, especially off of the move that it had today. So let's go to the euro. And here's the euro, the euro had probably one of the bigger drops today. I think it was the pound. I think the euro had a little bit more on the pound. Anyway, so we'll see, but it did. You can see it rolled over, pretty obvious. This slipped, really strong RSI. I'm going to give kind of a 0 here on the moving average, and because it just has this little round. But the way that this fell price action-wise, and this the RSI and how it's falling, the parabolic SAR, how it's falling away from it so aggressive. So this will flatten out. I do believe it'll bounce. Here's the pound. They're going to be difficult to pair just because they fell so much so quick. You can see here's the pound. The pound, I gave a -2, and it's because it just halted. It came down, fell through the floor here on the RSI, and it's flatlined. This moving average is difficult because this was so hard and so fast. It still has that extension away from the PSAR, but it was already flat, and this looks to me like a knee-jerk reaction on both the euro and the pound. I wouldn't be surprised if I was to dig deeper, folks, and find some sort of, or something news-driven wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to keep it on the back burner. I'm not going to put it as like one of my favorite trades. I'd rather do something a little bit less aggressive when it comes to the outliers, +3, -3. At least for now. So the volatility is just a little too high, or the velocity is too high. Let's take a look at the CAD here. The CAD, I think, is a little bit stronger, +2. It did flip the SAR here. I like this sloping moving average. I like the move back above the 50 on the RSI. It's flattened. Got a pretty decent little kind of an ascending triangle, trying to poke its head out, kind of like what the US dollar's done. So let's go ahead and take a look at it on the daily for a little bit more relevance. You can see it is definitely climbing back up to these previous levels. So I do like it. Sloped here, sloped there. I mean, this is definitely still a +1, +2 on the daily. So the velocity kind of just agrees with where it's going. So I do like the CAD as something a little bit stronger. So let's take a look at the Aussie. Here we go. Oversold bounce. Velocity-wise, this was strong. I gave it a +2, and I had to just because it flipped the SAR, pushed away from it, price actions up, revisiting there, and a nice move on the RSI. The only one I didn't score, I gave it a 0, was we had a slightly lower moving average, and then it curved up so hard, I kind of gave this a 0 there. So +1 here, +2 there, and I do like it. Now, overall, it could just be an overall oversold bounce, and it's exactly what it is if you take a look at it on the daily. So yeah, it's the first day of the year. People pull out money. People put in money. We'll see where it goes from there. But so far, it really hasn't done anything to really get me excited outside of where it's been since the end of last year, right? Just the velocity popped up a little bit today. Now, the Kiwi, on the other hand, is a lot less aggressive, for lack of a better term. I gave it a +1, and what I liked about it is not only did it pop up, but it started rolling back down. I gave it a +1. It flipped the SAR here. I like how this has kind of smoothed itself out. Actually, it's dripped a little bit lower since I first scored this below that 50. So I could give this a 0, or I'll just keep it at the +1. But this would be something that I would rather pair than something a little bit more aggressive like the pound or the euro when it comes to something weak. So here we are. You can see just up and down. You guys could take a look at the cryptos if you'd like to, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, cash, liquid, they're all the same. They've got the same little kind of 45-degree angle climb up relative to the volatility that they post each day. But the focus for me isn't going to be so much the -3 and the +2 side. I'm going to play something in between. I liked the U.S. franc, which is all the way down here, and the franc is because it slips so fast, but it's still stronger overall. But we'll see what I can do there. And then the New Zealand U.S. dollar, you can see New Zealand dollar is still weak. It had that oversold bounce like the Aussie did, but it didn't bounce as high. So we'll take a look at those two as our possible trades. So let's just jump straight into it. So I'm going to start with the U.S. franc. I do like this. I think it was a pretty cool pattern. It popped up. We could wait for this to correct a little bit, but I just let's see if I can get this to correlate with the bouncing side right here. So this is kind of the area I liked. You could see there's an ascending triangle going into that box. If I widen it, you could see that we did have some ascending triangle going into it, but then it broke out, and it's looking like it's going to pull back. So if this is something that you feel you missed, which it looks like we might have now, that's fine. Wait for it to correct, and maybe we can jump into it a little bit later. Now, what I did like about this was how it correlates with that daily chart, which is very similar. It's the same thing. It's got that kind of an ascending pattern going on here. Let's see if my line will stay long enough for me to draw that right there. It popped out, and it's continuing higher. Sure, we're going to be muddled in this a little bit of a corrective action or sideways, but we can easily take care of that if we just use our 4-hour chart to confirm when we need to get into that. So it might be a little bit away, but that's definitely going to be on my list. And the other one that I did like that seemed tradable to me at first was the New Zealand US dollar. And it's kind of the same idea, just opposite. I liked the descending triangle part on this. So you've got a little bit low there, a little descending right there. Looks like it wants to roll over. And this looks pretty decent on the velocity score, but it also kind of correlates with the daily. Let's take a look at it real quick. You can see on the daily, this has been dropping pretty good. And it's got similar pattern. It looks like we might be a little bit behind on this one because it's already broken below this channel. But this footing that it's building right there does give us another opportunity to maybe jump in short again here. Let's go back to our velocity score, our velocity chart. You can see it looks like it wants to roll over. So of the two, those are my favorite. I would probably lean more towards the Kiwi US out of the two. But we are starting to see, it's only been one day, but there's all sorts of movement going on. Like Rob said over the weekend class that, hey, as soon as that year turns over, we start to see some good movements in the currency markets. And looks like that's what we are getting. So in conclusion, folks, it's the first day of 2025, but it did show the movement that we expect. And I imagine that's going to continue. There's going to be posturing going on. U.S. data continues to support strength. We got political posturing. We got a new president going to the U.S. markets. We've got worries about tariffs and sanctions and all sorts of different things. So you're going to see some scrambling, especially in the currencies. Not so much in the equities. They're just kind of playing themselves out. But let's just keep an eye and see what emerges as we move into the new year. Well, folks, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.